Let's talk about it.
Hello and welcome back to Thicc Radio, the award-winning podcast where we talk about gaining, fetishism, and everything plus size. I'm James.
And I'm Tim, so let's get into it.
Now listen, y'all, Shannon Malone-deBenedictis, and that is a name and a half, is a two-time Emmy award-winning filmmaker, certified story coach, and founder of Padlin Creative, where she helps women harness the power of storytelling to lead with impact. She's got 25 years in global documentary filmmaking. Her work has appeared on Disney+, Netflix, National Geographic, and Discovery, earning Emmys for Secrets of the Whales and Penguin Town. She's collaborated with icons like James Cameron and Sigourney Weaver, and partnered with organizations including National Geographic, Saving Yellowstone Foundation, and the NWF. As creator of Fully Unapologetic, Shannon mentors women creatives, educators, and entrepreneurs to own their stories and courage with clarity. A certified body image coach, she believes curiosity is a superpower and story is the key to transformation. Everybody, Shannon Malone-deBenedictis.
Thank you. That was great. All right. We're done now, right? That's it? Yeah. Good? Okay.
Yeah, that's it. Roll the outro and
Let's talk about it.
that's it.
No, I'm
the
thrilled.
podcast is just
Guys.
How are you today?
I'm good. Just trying to get back into the groove of work. You know, it's going to take a little bit, but it's okay. I'll get it. I'll get there. I'll get back up to speed.
One step at a time. Shannon, I've got to tell you, we were so keen for this because when we sort of put out the initial probe to the universe to say, who might want to have a conversation with us? Never in our wildest dreams did we think that such a leading creative, Emmy Award winner would want to come and make an appearance. So we are very humbled to have you with us today. We just want to say thank you for giving us your time today.
Oh, guys, look, I'm thrilled. And I am so thrilled and love the platform that you're offering. You know, it's needed. It's great. It's unapologetic. And that's my whole thing. And, you know, let's just kind of get the word out there and quit the BS. Yeah, totally.
That's phenomenal. I mean, you know, this is ultimately what we want to do in every circumstance, right? It is, we're not here to apologize for anything. We're here to let you know this is who and what we are. And more than that, we are expansive, literally and physically and metaphorically, beyond all that scope. And, you know, what I see sometimes of the capabilities of people in our community is so of that expanse, and I just think someone like yourself who has done and achieved so much, there's some real gold to unpack that can hopefully inspire the people in our community to know that there is glory in the big and the capability is fully there. So listen, for anyone who at this stage, we've given you the intro, is not familiar with you, what do you want them to know about you?
I want them to know that I'm someone who loves telling stories. I've been telling stories ever since I was a little kid, and writing a play when I was 8 years old. It wasn't good, but I wrote a play, and I ended up in a career that allows me to tell stories. Now, truthful stories, but still I get to tell stories, and I'm very thankful and very proud of the work that I do. And I also recognize that I've been heavy my whole life, you know, use whatever phrase you want, husky, you know, big girl, the whole thing. You know, I've been this way my whole life. And at times have been told that, you know, maybe a career in television wasn't necessarily the best thing for me. And yet I'm the storyteller. This is what I do. And so even being in a world where there weren't a lot of people like me, it wasn't going to stop me and tell the best story that I could. And I've gotten to work with some amazing people, and I've worn a lot of Spanx just because everybody wears Spanx in some situations. It's just a reality, but always, you know, remind myself, you know, hey, I'm really, really lucky that I get to go out and tell stories about whales and sharks and Yellowstone and civil rights heroes and meet some amazing people.
And as a natural born storyteller, I imagine that a lot of your childhood, your upbringing has a lot to do with how you later express these stories in your career. And doing a little research on you, we know that you grew up in Washington, D.C. Can you tell us about what some of those experiences with specifically related to like body image during your childhood and adolescence?
Yeah, so I'm a Gen X, and one of the things about being a woman, a Gen X, is I was always really active. I was always really, really sporty, probably undiagnosed ADHD before because my age, that wasn't something that was diagnosed. So my parents put me in sports all the time, all the time. I played sports all year round, and I was heavy. I at the exact same time, I was heavy, and it didn't really catch up to me until my high school teenage years is when it caught up with I was doing theater, I was, writing, I was doing all these things while also playing sports all the time. And my freshman year of high school, I won the MVP award in volleyball. And my sophomore year of high school, the coach benched me because I was fat and told me I wasn't going to start unless I lost weight. And, that does a number on a 14, 15-year-old psyche, let me tell you. And the good news is I like theater and I like telling stories. I was always doing that anyway, and I found solace and comfort doing that instead. And in the DC area, my father worked for the House of Representatives for the Ways and Means Committee for the House of Representatives. So we're talking about very structured, we're talking about like formal suits, children must look a certain way, but at the same time, we were very individual. We were very much, we weren't in like locked in a box. My parents let us express ourselves. So being in DC and being around that area, I'm equally comfortable, um, you know, hanging out at the roller rink or doing whatever, but also know what it takes in order to make a presentation in front of a congressman or a senator and stuff. Yeah.
What do you think that did for you as a young person to kind of be so involved in community activity and to really assert your presence? What do you think that really did for you?
I think that, when I was really young, before puberty hit, it was just something of a reality. I was larger, and look, I never was going to be the fastest one on the soccer team. I wasn't going to be the fastest one on the basketball team. That's okay. And it wasn't really till puberty hit that it all kind of really came to a head because you're growing in places, things are really confusing, hormones are messing up everything, and I started getting much more overt kind of discrimination, much more overt kind of things held against me. And the bullying was always there, but I will say this, and still true to this day, for the longest time people assumed, like my brother, God bless him, and he'll be fine with this, is that he assumed I was like bullying somebody. He saw me once. He saw me like in the second grade. He walked by my classroom and saw me reach across the table and just slug this kid. And when I had to tell him, it was like, no, I was being bullied, and I fought back. And so that was the thing, was I didn't take it. But at times there were times where I was assumed to be the bully because I was larger. And even though I wasn't, I remember one little tiny slip of a girl was bullying me mercilessly and ran to the principal, told the principal I was bullying her, and I got sent to the office, even though I didn't do anything. So I kind of grew up with that, like over my head, and it made me kind of at times, collapse and be really upset. And other times it was, okay, scrape this up. Because I'm fat, I'm going to have to work twice as hard. I'm going to have to show everybody this isn't going to hold me back.
And you work in an industry that's sort of famously male dominated, and anytime they hand the reins of power over to a woman, it's always this huge gamble that they never think is going to pay off, and then it makes them millions of dollars, but it doesn't lead to like a wave of more female directors and more female writers and all of those things. So like not only like being a woman, how was it for you to navigate that industry being a plus size woman?
Well, I'm fortunate. The nonfiction world is less. I'm not completely saying it's not. There's sexism. There's definitely like bro culture and everything, but I've seen a lot of women rise to really good, powerful positions in that. That said, there is no lacking in any area of this in terms of ageism and then sizeism. And I think as a larger size woman, what I ran into a lot was situations where when I would face it, or it would experience me, that there were either people who were completely caught off guard because they had no idea that this is something that happened, or that they saw it and kind of just shook their head in some ways. And I once had a manager say to me, a boss say to me, that he was really shocked that he saw how sometimes people treated me, would not acknowledge me, would kind of be dismissive or make comments behind my back because I was a heavy woman. Now, if I heard it, okay, I'd have to find a way and again tell myself, no, I'm not going to let this kind of hold me back. And if I didn't hear it, I'd explain to people and they'd be like, blah blah blah. And I'm like, yeah, yeah, that happens. Yeah.
It's quite incredible. The I think sometimes people try to lob it as, oh, I would never see you as less. They think, oh, that's what that is. It's like an outlier, that someone must be particularly being pointed, or that it's an isolated incident, when in actual fact it's across all industries, in all flavors of all areas. And, we can look at that from a queer male perspective, right? You could be in the most queer liberated space. It's fat phobic as fuck. It's so deeply fascinating when people don't acknowledge that, as if none of us came across things like The Biggest Loser, as if we don't live in the world that bullies and berates fat people every single day, as if we ourselves are not, steeped in that same culture. That the feigning of comprehension, sometimes I find very fascinating.
Yeah, when I was working at Discovery, that's when the roots of my 600-pound life started. And I remember I went to an executive because this is very early, very, very early on, before it became what it became. So more than 10 years ago, 10, 12 years ago. And the theme song that they had underneath it was horribly offensive. It was shockingly offensive, of like, just stop eating, get off your butt, go do this, go do that. And here I am, I'm in my 30s. I've had a roommate for most of my adult years, and she's a tiny marathoner. She's like, I live with you. I see you. You're not eating buckets of chicken. This is just your reality. This is just who you are. And so I went and I was like, I'm going to go out on a limb. And I went to the general manager of the network and I said, look, that song's really offensive. It's super, like, horribly offensive. I understand that you want to make programming about helping people who are overweight and whatnot, but when you're mocking them in the opening title sequence, you're undoing everything that you're trying to espouse. It didn't change, but I did it. I complained. I made a statement, but I've always thought that's been interesting. And you mentioned about whether queer or large or whatever, is there seems to be, like, particularly I feel like with large people, I can only speak my experience, is that people seem to think that if you're heavy or you're fat, whatever you want to say, that you're also blind and deaf, and somehow you just don't know it. Oh my God. And it's like, you just don't realize it. And you're like, no, I'm not blind. I'm not deaf. I know exactly what's going on with my body. I understand what's happening with my body, and how that kind of impact trickles down. Sometimes maybe not necessarily in the corporate environment or in the boardroom or in the conference room or in that, but everybody knows that when it comes to professional in your career, there's things that are ancillary to that. It's happy hours, it's dinners, it's going and meeting a client, it's traveling, it's all those things. And that's when that stuff starts to kind of come out of, oh, am I going to go to a big business dinner? I really want the steak, but I don't want them to think I'm like a big fat gluttonous person. So I'm not going to order the steak. I'm only going to order a bowl of soup, or something like that. And so those impressions, those feelings, those attitudes that people have toward you, they bleed out into those situations and can impact you.
I love what you said about the way that some of this stuff is produced, because James and I undertook a mad assignment to try and review all of the quasi-documentary
Yeah.
and or expose things that are written about our community, right? And some of them were just unbelievably bad in the way that they were framed, the music that was used, the camera angles. I mean, in one of these documentaries,
Oh, is it the one?
they
Is
had
it
a
the one where
camera
it was like
where
this?
It was aimed directly
It
up
was
the
like
guy's
this.
nose.
Yeah.
And it's just like there's nothing good that happens at this angle of the conversation
Nothing.
when there's tongues and eyeballs and nostrils and you just
The circus music that they
again, it's the
play, the
whole
whole
Oh,
ba bump ba bump ba bump when
putting
they're
a two
walking.
liter 2 liter Coke or 2 bottles of liter Cokes or 2 liter Cokes in front of them. It's like they may have had nothing to do with it, but no, look, we're framing it because they're facing this. I mean, it's yeah, and for me, and you guys, you've done an analysis. For me, I watch it and there's one small part of me that's like, well, as a producer, they're doing this, they're kind of doing this, that's why they're doing it. They're establishing things. And then the personal side of me is like, like what are you doing? Like yelling at the screen. So, I've talked about that. I have a very love-hate relationship with Biggest Loser. And the hate part is for all the obvious reasons. The love part is it shows how tough, strong, and resilient heavy people are. You know, it shows when you see someone who's 320 pounds doing a 10K, when I know people who weigh 150 who can't do a 10K, it shows what they can do. And you didn't see that. And so that actually
mm,
was, I'm like, yeah, look, yeah, So yeah, I can imagine. I said, for me, my poor husband, I can't watch that stuff because he'll just start hearing me yelling at the TV the entire
mm.
time. Yeah.
No, I get it. And people think that Survivor is tough. I've
Mhm.
always felt that way when it's like living from Australia. Like they make such a drama out of they don't get to have their rations for a week. What are they gonna do? And of course, there's still the extremism of it. You see some contestants who lose a lot of weight and they're really pushing, they're really trying to win that money. And in Biggest Loser, it's like that's just this week's physical challenge. That's before you get to the verbal abuse that the coaches would put on them. That's before you get to all the other things.
Yeah.
And once again, it's the whole look at this person who survived in the wild. Aren't they an incredible person? And then look at the Biggest Loser who had to do the 10-mile run. Well, they should just be doing that anyways. It's for the right. It's like, what's the example that they give? What's something that's impressive, that would be impressive with a rich person, but is considered totally normal for a poor person? And that's speaking multiple languages.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, that's a
And
good
it's like,
example.
oh, they're so cultured because they speak multiple languages, but like this kid at home who is bilingual or trilingual because of their parents, and it's like that. We just tell them to pick themselves up by their bootstraps, don't we?
Yeah.
And get on with it. It's mad. Utterly mad. But again, reasons why I think today is going to be such an interesting conversation to get to peek a little bit behind the curtain with some stuff and really, really get into the work that someone like you gets to do. You studied video art at SCAD and you moved into documentary filmmaking, which I feel like you've said in the past was not necessarily what you were planning on doing. Can you tell us a little bit about like how you got into that?
Oh, sure. So I went to SCAD. I have a degree in video art and art history. And I really wanted to get into, I used to do installations and performance, kind of hybrid performance artwork mix and different room installations with video cameras and whatnot. And my goal was actually to work in a museum, was to preferably work in a museum, although I didn't really come from that world. I came from kind of a stodgy middle class kind of background. So in the late mid 90s, I was in graduate school and my mother had been diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's. And I was living in Chicago. She was back home in DC. And after a few years, it became clear that my siblings and I needed to move home to help take care of her. So I came home for the weekend visiting, went out drinking with a buddy of mine, J. Danner McDonald. I told him my plight. He said, "You know what? Why don't you come work for me as a nighttime editor at the Discovery Channel?" And at that point, it was not very big. It was getting big, but it wasn't terribly huge. And I was like, I don't know, second beer, maybe. Third beer, okay, if you're interested, send me an offer, right? And that's how I ended up in documentary filmmaking. And the thing that's fascinating about it is, I mean, a class I didn't take in college was I did not take documentary filmmaking. So people are like, well, how did you get into documentary filmmaking? Because it's still the root of it is still the story. And so I'm still looking for the story. I'm just looking for the story from a narrative nonfiction standpoint than necessarily creating something completely new. And I've always been curious. I've always been interested in learning. And so it ended up being a really good kind of combination of you know what, this is great. This is something I like doing. And I approach my work of what is the thing I'm doing or what is the topic and what's really going to kind of jump out and appeal to the 13-year-old inside of me. And that's not dismissing highly cerebral documentaries. It's saying, what is that thing that is not just also fascinating and interesting, but also like, oh, that's really cool. I want to dig in more. What is that element that I can find? And that is kind of the MO I take with all my projects is I'm not making them for myself, even though it's something that I'm really maybe am terribly interested in. I'm making it for the people who I know are going to want to hear the story and want to learn more. So it was an unusual jump into documentaries. I'd love to say that I've always wanted to, film whales and work with National Geographic my whole life, but I feel a little insincere and a little, towards my colleagues who have achieved that dream. For me, I'm like, I'm very proud to be with you. I'm very proud to be a part of this gang. Yeah.
There's something in what you said about how you found that common root in that it is your love to tell stories. And I feel a little bit the same with what we're doing here with this podcast. I grew up thinking I wanted to be this like on-stage performer, and I do love the opportunities to sing and do all of those things. And when I was at university trying to learn how to do those things, I needed to make up some credits. And so I did like one unit in radio stuff. And then like as the years have gone by, so much of all the rest of it has fallen by the wayside, and now the thing that I feel so much the most at home doing, that I feel like I've really invested myself in, is in that one thing that I really wasn't looking at, like, making into something, and yet it is something that has offered itself to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that sense of, as you say, really diving into it and wondering, like, how does this appeal to the child inside of me? How do I work with this to find the joy in it? And I really relate to that. So thank you for sharing.
And I was going to say, what I love about documentaries is that, if they're really well done, they can change hearts and minds. Like they can, getting those stories out there, like take something like Blackfish. I saw that and I was like, oh my God, now that I know all of that, I'm not going to be, it's like, and that's what that has the power to do. I think that documentaries have the ability to cause sweeping social change if they reach the audiences that they're intended for, and they're a great story, that they have that ability. And talking about great other great storytellers, you've worked with huge names from James Cameron and Sigourney Weaver to other well-known personalities. And what was it like collaborating with them? And have those collaborations taught you anything about navigating high-profile relationships in the industry?
Well, the collaborations with James Cameron, Sigourney Weaver have always been fantastic. I've worked with Sigourney before on Planet Earth, the U.S. version of Planet Earth. So this was the second time that we have worked together, and she's just a treasure. She is delightful. She's emotional. She's intelligent. She's all of it, and just an absolute delight. I think that working with high profile people, James Cameron declared he was king of the world after Titanic, and everybody kind of raised an eyebrow. Is this not? And yeah, it was pretty boisterous. But that man knows how to make.
It turned out to be right.
The man knows how to make a film. And also the man, from a scientific standpoint, he's the only person who's been to the bottom of Mariana's Trench. So he's got the right to boast. He knows what he's doing. He is an excellent storyteller. He's excellent at technology. And also he respects the people around him. So the relationship that my colleague Brian Armstrong and I had was very collaborative, very respectful. Everybody brought their talents to the table. And also with the influence from the network, from Janet Vissering, it was a really collaborative thing to work together and to put together something that, particularly with whales, these aren't creatures you see like a dog or you see all the time. It's this mysterious thing that if you're lucky and you get a moment to spend time with them, it's you got to be thankful. It's really hard to find them and really hard to really get inside their lives. So we were able to do that and connect with people on a real emotional level. And a lot of that is due to the leadership who let us do that, who let us tell that story that we knew. Particularly, if you remember, that came out right when COVID was things were opening up again. And that really made everybody connect to how important family and family connection and community connection was. And finding that these elusive creatures have those same elements, I think allowed it just to go a little bit deeper than maybe your typical animal doc.
Absolutely. And, to that point, Emmy Award winning. Twice Emmy Award winning, and clearly in recognition of incredible work. And I'd be curious, considering all of the stuff we've kind of talked around, even so far, the not to simplify it and say the things you've had to overcome, but as we've been discussing, the ongoing having to make the decision to, this is just another thing I need to have to move past, to have to choose to move beyond, because it's either I move or I stay stuck, and I have to continue moving. Considering all of that, what does that sense of recognition do for you in the moment?
In the moment, it was, I was really proud to be with I was really proud. I mean, I can't stress this enough. It takes a very large army to put something like that together. I am one piece of that. And one of the key roles I played, not only as an executive, but also I was kind of the emotional barometer. Is they would show me things, I'd work with them on scenes, and if it made me cry or made me sniffle or made me laugh, then that was because that's something I bring to the table. Is I fully admit I wear my heart on the sleeve, and I react to those things. And when we went to the Emmys, it was interesting because just like anybody, when it comes to going to a big event, I ran through all the whole emotions of what do I wear, what do I wear, what do I wear, and to say that it's not easy as a plus size woman to find things, it's just not. It's really, really not. But I was determined not to wear black. I said, I'm not going to wear black because I've been told my whole life that I need
Black
to wear
is slimming.
Black is slimming. Don't ever wear stripes. Whatever you do, don't ever do that. Black is slimming. And I'm like, I'm not going to wear black. And so I found this really lovely gold dress that I wore, and I looked fabulous in it. And when I won, I'm up on stage and it matches the statue great. So that, it seems silly, but I think for people who get it, that was an equally proud moment because I said, I'm not going to follow the rules I've been told since I was a kid. I'm going to wear what I want to wear and feel as fabulous as I can.
Oh my God, yes.
Damn straight.
Even insofar as, Tim and I, we were very honoured. We received a podcasting award at the Full Figured Industry Awards in 2024. We got to go back last year. And even at the sizes that we occupy now, so quickly do your options dry up. Fast fashion options stop at a large. Accessible fashion seem to stop at an extra large. And if you need anything beyond that, it's custom order, it's in a random shop around the corner that no one's ever heard of. It's just, and the options are limited. Even in my own growth journey, the discovery of how quickly clothing moved from things that looked nice on my body into being, here's a square cut of fabric. How did they measure that? They wrapped a bolt of fabric around a refrigerator and stuck a zipper in the back. And you're like, what the fuck is this? This is a fucking tent with sleeves on it, Even in personal gripes, all they do is up the measurements in everything that they do, but that includes crotch drop. So I've got trousers that either sit on my waist, and even if they sit around my waist, that crotch drops halfway to my knees, as if I've got an undercarriage that is just dragging along behind me. What the act? I understand we don't always get to see big people in the light, but I promise you, they don't have this situation going on. This is madness, Yeah. Representation is so important, and when I think of the vision of you in that gold, standing in that moment, is just phenomenal. The power of a body of size in glimmer, in shining, in bright, it's stunning. My God. Love it, love it, love it.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I will admit, the second one for the daytime Emmys, I did wear a black dress, although there's a mesh, so it's like my tatas are making a big appearance in that dress. And I fully admit the reason why for that one is I had just come back from a sabbatical, and it was I had been back a week and I didn't have time to do any prep. And I was like, oh, I've got this dress. Oh, honey, how does this look? He's like, the girls look great. I'm like, okay, well, there we go. We'll run with that. I'm like, okay, there we go. I'm not afraid to show them off. I've got them. It's part of it. It's the way that it is. It totally is. But you said that with crotch. I mean, for women, the thing is arms. It's such a big deal. And as I wear a 20 or a 22 in US sizes, but I work out 3 times a week, I do strength training, I do all this stuff. So it's not just that my arms are big, my arms are muscular and big. So trying to find something that actually will accommodate without cutting off and doing like a blood pressure cuff on my arm. It's like you said, what do I do? Do I get a custom made? Do I have buy stuff that gives? And it, and and I say this because I talk about this and unapologetic, but those little things start wearing you down, wearing you down, wearing you down. And after a while, you're like, do I have to pick myself up? Do I really? This is just, come on. It's just, maybe I'll just go hide in the corner again and not do anything and not dress up and not do that. And then it's like, oh no, I found this great outfit. Okay, you know what? Fine, let's do it. Let's kind of pick myself up and do it again. Yep.
And get out there and rock whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And find people around you who love and appreciate every single thing that you have. Again, I'm thankful. I have a husband who, there was a time I was losing weight and he's like, honey, your butt's getting too small. And I'm like, oh, I love you.
Now,
That is the correct response. That is the correct response. God damn
absolutely.
it.
Now, as we said at the top of the episode, you are the creator of Padlin Creative. What inspired you to launch that company, and what is your vision for it?
I launched Padlin, which Padlin is a combination of my mom's, her real first name Lina and her nickname Patty, Paddy. So it's Padlin. And I decided to launch it because I had been working with other companies and working in other capacities, and I wasn't doing what I really wanted to do. And I was getting to a point in my life of like, I don't want to be just pigeonholed in just doing documentaries or just doing animals or just doing that. I to quote Four Weddings and a Funeral, I want to be all the colors of the rainbow and more. So what can I do? And that included running workshops. It includes public speaking. I talk about my filmmaking career. I give empowerment. I have 2 classes on Udemy. It kind of allows me to put my toe into many different pools and say, okay, I really, really want to try this. And part of that was I had written an article about being plus size, being fat in media, and some of the experience that I went through. And it really picked up a lot of traction. And I said, you know what, maybe I can do some help. Maybe I can help. And maybe I can be a cheerleader. Although I feel more like a teammate. Be a cheerleader for people to remind them, like, you're awesome. Don't let these kind of things kind of tear you down. And that's what led me into fully unapologetic and doing body image coaching, because some of it also in the media and the consulting I do, so much of it is just boosting people up and saying, look, no, you're great. You got this. Let's do this. Adding in, don't let your concern about your body image, don't let your concern about this hold you back. Remember those positive feelings to let your confidence come out. And it's just been really lovely. I've been meeting some great people and interacting with some really fabulous, insightful, talented folks.
That's phenomenal. And, I said near the beginning of this episode, I think things you have to say today are going to impact members of our community, because the reality is there is a narrative of, when pursuing this type of transformation, shall we say, there is the idea that you may as well give everything you have to that and let everything else fall by the wayside. Because the reality is, and this is a reflection of the world that we live in, as you get larger, or just even existing as larger, there are less opportunities, people will treat you differently. And I think there is a real sense of, there's nothing else I can really achieve with my life, and therefore I'm going to kind of make this the whole thing. And I don't begrudge that for anyone who does it and feels okay with it, because I think if that's your life, you got to do what you got to do. But as I say, getting to do this podcast and getting to highlight members of our community, it becomes so apparent how many artistic and creative people there are. And it doesn't matter what field it is, whatever that passion is, there's so much desire to be both big and to achieve and to do all of the things. And again, I think someone like yourself, who represents so clearly and passionately and powerfully and potently as this thing, I think is so important for people to be able to see and to hear from. And so I think what you're doing with Padlin, even now, is probably changing lives in ways that cannot be seen the effects of right now. It's something that we'll get to see more of as the years go by, and it makes me so very excited for all the things that come with that. And to that point, you've shared in the past, you've you've got your big picture vision, which is that 10,000 foot view, right? I want to know, how do you balance that when you say, as you know, all these big projects, you are one piece of so many. How do you balance those two things, that sense of that macro view with also the minutia of the work that you do and the finesse it takes to make it happen?
Probably organized chaos. And I was going to say, I don't know if I handle it terribly well. I think, I take the big picture view in that one of the things about losing my mother relatively young, not too young, I was 32 when she passed away, and seeing her decline was, I don't want to have a life where I'm regretting everything. I kind of want to let everything kind of come my way and see how it goes. And that's not, so when I say that, you hear people say, I regret that I didn't do this, or I regret that I didn't do this. My life has been on a path that just happens to be the path I'm on. And a decision was made, and maybe, yeah, I mean, I don't think that it would be like if I had taken that other side, things would be different. It just happens along the way. And life throws you hurdles, no matter who you are, what size you are, whatever. How you navigate those hurdles is more of not just about success. I don't want to put it in monetary terms or professional terms. It's how you do it emotionally and how you do it psychologically. I'm very happy in this very kind of quiet life my husband and I lead. We like to travel. It's not overly loud. It's very, very quiet, and that makes me very, very happy. So I think that it's reminding myself of those things. So I can't change the fact that I'm heavy. And I say that if I want to try to change the fact that I'm heavy, it would require me to diet in a way that is extremely unhealthy, extremely dangerous, and something that I already did in some capacity and kind of messed up my entire metabolism after I did it. So I can either rue this and live a life of restriction and not see the world, or I can enjoy what life has for me and not let it stand in my way. Sure, I may not be able to ride a donkey in the Grand Canyon because I'm too heavy. That's okay. That's what drones are for. I'll just watch a film about it and I'll go do something else. I'm fine. I'm fine with
Oh my
that.
god, yes. Can we listen? I love my big bitches who hike and they show you that physicality is not limited by size, absolutely. But I'm also here for the conversation where we as larger people don't need to prove ourselves with physicality to justify our existence in a larger body. Like, baby, I'm built for comfort, not speed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if you want to drive a Jeep Wrangler, if you want to drive a four-wheeler through the mud, baby, you go right on ahead. Baby, I'm a Lexus. Baby, we're going to cruise down Fifth Avenue. You better understand and believe we're going to take it nice and slow. And we're going to have a lot of little stop and breaks on the way. Like, every body and every vibe is totally different.
And nobody's gonna give any type of side eye or whatever pressure to someone who's a size 4, who's like, you know what, I just want to sit at home and read a book and have a cup of tea and doesn't have any. No, that's totally fine. But if you're heavy, why aren't you out hiking and seeing if you could do this and trying to do all this? And when have you done your first half marathon and whatnot? And it's like you're putting that on because of what society has told you is acceptable and is not acceptable. And when you learn where those standards come from, the misogynist, racist, colonialist background of it, then
Absolutely.
you go, wait, hold on a second. It's okay, give me a break. Give me a break of like being the life thin woman who wears a size 4 is, well, you're supposed to be taking a nap and swooning in the afternoon and not being able to lift a single thing other than a teacup. I'm like, I come from good, hearty Irish stock. It's not gonna happen. It's
Baby.
just not gonna happen.
Two things there, right? First and foremostly, and I know I've said this on a number of episodes, and I'm gonna keep driving this book home until your motherfuckers read this. Fearing the Black Body by Sabrina Strings. You need to get into it. Understand. Any disadvantage or trauma that you experience as a fat person is tied directly to racism, baby, and you need to understand that right here, right motherfucking now, because that is it. Second of all, there is a reason why Ozempic is being pushed the way that it is, y'all. They want you thin and gormless, they want you weakened, and they want you incapable of standing your ground 10 toes down and dealing with the world and the way things are happening at the moment. They want you in that position. It is in your best interest to pick up that motherfucker cheeseburger and actually live a little bit and just have a little peace in your own body for once.
Well, what was this phrase they just repeated? Was Kate Moss? Nothing tastes as good as
As
how
good as
skinny,
being
feels.
skinny feels.
And
yeah,
I'm like,
but that's from the era of heroin chic.
Yeah, but at the same time, I'm like, have you had like the sunrise cake in Norway? Holy shit, that thing is amazing. It's like this whole idea of like you want to starve, and I'm like, so much of life and community and bringing yourself together when you meet people, when you interact with people, is through food, through community, through all of that. And so this idea of like, no, I need to be a size 2 because that makes me superior. Yeah, no, yeah. And, again, gets into the racism, gets into the colonialism, gets into white Anglo-Saxon, Protestant, American exceptionalism, bullshit, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
All of that shit. I've said this before and I'll say it again. We only have 5 senses at a push to experience the entirety of the universe. And one of those senses, well, technically 1.5 with the nose, because of, how things are linked. But, like, one of those senses is dedicated entirely to the food you put in your mouth. Taste. That is one of the 5 ways in which you access this entire universe. And you want to tell me you want to limit that down to, like, low fat, low carb, bow fat, no fat, go fat, pro fat, do fat, all these fucking greens, beans, potatoes, like, baby, calm.
I still haven't figured out the prebiotic and probiotic thing.
And then the postbiotic that they just come out with.
Somebody fed me like, oh, this ice cream has probiotics, and I'm like, I don't fucking care. Like,
baby, really, I wanted vanilla bean. I wanted ice cream in a nice wafer cone. It's hot. I want a nice ice cream, please. Also,
like, this ice cream has granola in it. I have a problem with that.
Baby, put it down. You know what, baby? Put the cauliflower down. The cauliflower didn't want to be a steak. The cauliflower didn't want to be anything other than a cauliflower. If you are not happy with the cauliflower, you know what you can do? You can douse that bitch in a lovely queso, in a lovely cheese sauce. That's what you can do with that. You don't need to try and turn it into something that she's not. If you are that desperate for a wedge of meat, eat the meat.
Yeah.
God damn it, people. Oh.
Yeah, it's everything. I mean, everything in life to a point is everything in moderation. Everything. But that doesn't mean, like, cutting off a limb or cutting off something because this, I just got back from vacation and I'm sitting there and I was joking around with some woman. This woman was a 65-year-old, 70-year-old woman. And she's like, I really want the dessert, but it's just so fattening. I'm like, you're on vacation. It's vacation. I think vacation, you can indulge in having one piece of cake. Now, if you're having half a cake every day, as long as you're willing to take it, okay, but I think you can do this. It's okay because that memory is a great memory from vacation, from a great time. You're just depriving yourself because, okay, well, that's bad. That's bad. And I'm like, oh, okay.
The moralism attached to it. And, let's look at the obvious thing here. This is a person who is in a later stage of life, right? Like, the argument is you work the amount that you do so that you earn retirement. Yeah. That's when you're allowed to relax. Tim, you and I have this conversation all the time. When you think about stars of the 80s who were these sex symbols, and people love to make a remark now where it's like, oh shit, look at them and what's happened to them. Motherfucker, they're in their 60s.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, what is the body supposed to do? Why do you think
they expect everyone to be anorexically thin until the day they drop dead? And it's because certain stars went into retirement and disappeared that perpetuated that whole,
In any case, it's the ridiculous notion that, like, there is no freedom from the body fascism. There is no point in which you get to hop off this ride because we're on it for life. You were either fat in a body that they say is bad, so you should change that and become thin, or you're in the thin body, but don't you dare give in, don't you dare, because now you're at the top of the heap, and that means you've got the farthest to fall, so you can't let off, not even forever, even a moment. And what must that do to the psyche of a person? And now we're at a point where it doesn't matter the gender, it doesn't matter the age, the race, ethnicity, none of it. Baby, it's all, every moment of your life, apparently, you are expected to be cutting back and looking thin and doing all these things, when the science shows that, like, it's actually better for an older person to be fatter, because when they don't have the energy to eat or do physical things, their body subsists off the fat cells. Like,
Yeah.
pregnant women, for goodness sake, they are meant to be large because they're literally growing a whole human inside of them. Why do you want her to look emaciated with the baby inside of them? My God, there is no point between life and death in which we are letting people just exist, and it is utter madness. Oh my God.
I think one of the things that I remind myself, and when I feel beat up, and again, I'm human, just like anybody, is I came back from vacation, put on a few pounds because I was on vacation. It's okay, that's what vacations happen, and whatnot. And I could let myself get beat up, and be like, oh, look what you've done. What are you going to accomplish now? And it's like, I've won 2 Emmys. I've worked with celebrities. I've met with really famous people. I have a loving husband and a loving dog and cat. Like, what more can I do? And if the more thing I can do is just be thin, when that's going to actually hurt me, yeah, what you're asking is ridiculous. It's like, nobody says, oh, man, if I just worked harder, I'll be taller. I just want to be taller. It's like, I'm not going to apologize for not being tall. I'm not going to apologize for, this is what it's happened, what I've been dealt with. And one of the things, just anecdotally, is I'm one of 3 kids, older sister, middle brother, myself. My sister and I are heavy. My brother's nickname when he was a kid was Bones because he was so thin. Same diet, same level of activity, everything. And you're like, I don't need to look very far to say that there's a biological factor going on in here, everybody. So I don't know, what more can I accomplish? If I really, really want to take that donkey ride into the Great Grand Canyon, okay, maybe we'll see. But right now I'm fine. I don't need to go to the Grand Canyon.
I'm just
Yeah.
curious, like aside from like the struggles and judgment you face for being a plus size woman, do you also receive any kind of judgment for being childless?
Ooh, that's a good question. No, not really. Not really. I don't think that is as much in my industry. I haven't really faced that. I don't think it's ever really come up. And I married late, and for many reasons. I used to joke when people would say, "Are you married?" I'm like, "No, not divorced either." It just took it just took time for my husband and I to find each other. It was his first marriage, my first marriage, and we found each other, and there we go. So I haven't really faced any discrimination about that.
Which is so
Mm.
weird to me. Just, I mean, I hope it's not too much of a tangent, but like, the women that I've known in my life, it's like they are just obsessing over like, okay, now that I finally got the job that I want, I've got to have a kid within the next like 2 years
Hmm.
because my eggs are dying and all this other stuff. And like, and then I would hear like you hear judgment on the ones that are still childless and like, oh, you're selfish, you're spending all your money on yourself, this, that, and the other. It's like, well, yeah, isn't that the point? Like, if I didn't want them, where else is the money gonna go?
Yeah, I think that I have 2 nephews and I'm very doting over, and I've stepped in to help as needed. I've never gotten the guilt of, you're depriving me. But again, remember, my mother passed away when I was 32 and my father when I was 34. So I didn't really have the time to get that kind of hardcore guilt on me. And it's something that I've seen friends do worry about. Like, I need to have the babies now. Am I going to get a hiccup on my career? Is this going to happen? I've heard really horrible things of some things that some women have experienced in terms of bosses demanding that nobody else get pregnant in a department and things, which I was not in that department. That was something I heard about and just kind of shook my head. But I mean, these are the realities that we sometimes face. And I think a lot of it is, like you said earlier, it's a lack of empathy. It's a lack of acknowledging kind of different experiences and different, these are different realities. And those different realities and different experiences, data has shown this and studies have shown this, make your business stronger. So, you can have like your clone bro dudes, and guess what? They're all going to kind of agree with each other and be like the male version of Stepford Wives. Or you can bring a wide variety of voices in, and data has shown your company's going to be much stronger.
Isn't that amazing? The idea that incest happens because you're having too much of the same thing, and then you're left with the utter degeneration because there's not enough difference in it. And then having nothing but difference means it is stronger, it is robust. Yeah. You see that through culture and genetics and everything. But apparently when it comes to business and trying to do anything in this world, absolutely not. Diversity is apparently a massive problem and the core root of all dumb things, and I hate people. God.
So we just need to be positive and love each other, and just like how somebody is and whatnot. It's, if you don't know them and none of your business. Just wish them well. Wish your neighbor well. It's none of your business.
I think they need to force people to sit down and watch Mr. Rogers again. Like, I think we need to put that back into heavy rotation. Like, everybody forgot all that crap.
And the irony of celebrating your incredible shows and everything you've won Emmys for and all the work you do. And you know what? If someone turns around and says, I actually don't like the things that Shannon Malone-deBenedictis worked on, baby, you've got the remote.
I don't like all the things I worked on, too.
Maybe just change the channel. God damn it.
Change the channel.
It is not that hard. The bean soup theory is it is absolutely everywhere. Not everything is for you, and it is okay that it is not for you. Put it down. Go and find... Baby, why also do you need to dedicate time and energy into something that you don't like or that you think is a bad thing? How about you focus on the things that you do like and go and make them even better?
Yeah.
God. Ugh.
Yeah, I find this whole debate about this whole thing about all women want are men who look like Adonis and whatnot. And I've been laughing with my friends because I'm like, guys, the dream man is Jack Black. Most women's dream man is Jack Black. Did you realize that?
Yes.
It's Jack Black. It's like,
because he's funny, charming, probably good in bed.
Adorable. Exactly. It's like, that's the dream man, everybody.
Absolutely.
It's and so, but you go ahead and you think it's some Andrew Tate kind of misogynist bullshit thing. It's like, no. Most trust me, it's Jack Black.
Sometimes I wonder if that's why that whole alpha male thing came out of nowhere. Like, the whole, like, they saw that this is what people actually wanted to be with, and they got pissed. So people like Andrew Tate said, no, I'm going to ramp up.
Well,
I'm going to be an even bigger asshole.
But this is the thing. And this is part of one of the lectures I do, and actually in season 2 of My Saving Yellowstone, is the whole alpha wolf thing is based on bad science. That it was done on a study of captive wolves, and in captivity, wolves will develop into a hierarchy, an alpha beta type of situation. But out in the wild, wolf packs are familial. They're families, and there's no more an alpha than a dad. There's no more like that than like a beta is like a son. It is a family structure. So this whole alpha wolf beta thing, alpha beta thing is like just crap.
Bad science. It's perpetual. I was saying this to someone recently, because there's this question around the quote unquote male loneliness epidemic. Baby, if men are lonely, it's because they don't know how to talk to one another. And there is some grace that we can offer our men here, right? You think about this, and we know this, Tim, as men raised in the same society that everybody else gets brought up in. There is a discernible age when you are like just starting to enter your school years where it is no longer okay for you to be emotional, to want to have friendships with other boys. Now that's seen as a problem because boys are something you're in competition with, girls are something that you're meant to have claim ownership over. For the record, I am single digits just entering the school age, so I'm probably 5 or 6 years old. We are teaching some real fucking adult inappropriate shit to our children. Just so we're clear, culturally, people who are listening out there. But like, our boys are ripped away from the notion of having the right to have access to love, to affection, to friendship, to mateship. It is made to be weird. I think about this in context of queerness all the time. The motif of men who will not ever identify with queerness or gayness in any way, shape, or form, but they love to suck a dick. They love to suck a dick. And you know what? They have no way of processing that because they were never allowed or opportunity to, because society never allowed it. And of course, all the other boys were going through the exact same thing. And we do this. We do this to our young men. We put them in a position where they do not understand how to move through those things. That is one thing I think all of us could do better when it comes to our young boys who are in that spongy frame of mind where they don't know. We can help them to know and to understand.
And nature tells you this. Nature shows you this. Nature shows that that these things that people are like, this isn't, you don't find this in the wild. It's like, no, you do. There are queer ducks. There are both sexual organs. There are elk and a form of deer that have that. There's a species of elk who actually will, I think deer, reindeer, who the females will look like males and the males will look like females. There's all this happens in nature. There's all of this, but because it's been dictated, we're going back to fearing the black body, has been dictated through this white, Anglo-Saxon, Protestant, Puritan view. They always ignored that. They said that was an anomaly when in reality it was there. So education, just curiosity, learning about nature and talking and experiencing with people will get people just off a lot of these kind of harmful stereotypes and boxes they think they belong in. No, there's no box, everybody.
No.
There's no box, right?
You can
And
do
as
anything you want.
yes, as we learn, as we express, as long as we all follow the golden rule, do unto others as they will do unto you. That was it. Look, there's no box. There's no like this, that, I like to joke. I'm like, on the sexuality spectrum, I'm like, well, I'm mostly straight, but if Queen Latifah hit on me, I'm not saying no. That is it.
Baby, now come on. Now, I would be a crazy individual if I said that there weren't certain women that if I looked at and she said, get on your knees and make something happen, that I wouldn't be like, well, the Queen said to go ahead. And it's like, well, but now, it's so interesting. It's almost I've said this recently, it's the difference between there's two people, and it's people who either go, why? Like, they want to know why to justify having to do, or having to permit, or having to exist. There's people who ask the question, why? And then the other group of people ask, why not? Mm-hmm. Why not? Why not try the new thing? Why not open yourself up to new experiences? Alok Menon talks about this. The reason why so many cis people have an issue with trans and non-binary people is because trans and non-binary people represent the reality of living outside of the gender norms that are forced on people. And when you get mad at them for living in their freedom and their truth, what you are angry at is society that told you that you had to clip your wings. And so in order to fit in, you clipped your wings. And that is a sad thing. That is something to be mourned and grieved, of course. But if your response is to say, I am unhappy and now everyone else must be unhappy, that is no way to move forward. When all you need to do is decide you want to be happy, you want to experience the fullness of the human experience, step forward into that opportunity. That accounts for transness, that accounts for race and ethnicity, and that accounts for size, for body weight, for mass, the space that we occupy. You don't need to harm and limit and punish yourself if that's not what is in accordance with the truth of you. If you want to live in a body that is full of figured, even if you just want to live in a body that is unimpeded, you simply have to decide, connect with the people who are living that truth and that freedom, and then go and have a good time. Eat that slice of cake, baby. It's gonna be fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, you also have an interview series called Life After Television. What inspired you to host your own conversations?
That was a limited series that I did with people who were television or film producers whose career took a different turn. And the reason I wanted to put that together is the film and television industry are really struggling right now. And the latest estimates are anywhere between 40 to 60% unemployment or underemployment. And it isn't really obvious to the public because you still have many choices, but for people who are in the industry, we see how this contraction is happening, and it's not going to bounce back. This is likely a long-term correction that's happening. So there's a lot of television and media professionals who are looking for other work, and what I wanted to do is talk to people who've taken their careers and have found a different path, to have people not feel that they're lost, not feel like that their whole world is collapsing because their identity is so wrapped up in the industry that they're in, and to show that there are other places that they can go, other places that they can find work. And the women I talked to were all people who had successfully pivoted into other areas. So before I was in television, I was a talent agent for advertising and media and marketing professionals. And so it was a way to, again, kind of tap into my past experience and how can I help my colleagues? How can I really help them? And it was really enjoyable. It was something that I wanted to have a resource out there for anybody who's feeling like, well, I don't know how to do anything else. And I've expanded in that into a class that I teach called How to Sell Yourself Like a TV Show. And it's a way to use television pitching and deck pitching and all those things that I've done in movie studios and television studios and saying, all of those things you do, you can do for yourself. And it's a way to build up people's confidence and to recognize what their talents are so they don't feel like that they're stuck in a box.
I love that. And really, that ties in so specifically to what we've really been talking about, this understanding that you are not necessarily limited to the box that you're in. You need to find opportunities to just look and go beyond the literal and metaphorical expansiveness of all of it. I would like to ask of you, because I feel like the person who we're speaking with today, there is this energy, this hum that runs consistent for you. I feel we get this sense here on the podcast where you seem to tap into something, this sort of endless sense of the creative that you use to kind of find yourself in any situation that you're in. That's the sense I'm getting. And I want to ask you, what drives that sense of creativity? What like hobbies or interests energize you? What feeds that energy in you?
Thank you for the compliment. That I appreciate that. I think that I was born and I'm constantly curious. I really enjoy learning. I enjoy exploring. I enjoy learning. And that explains why I have still to this day 4 or 5 newspaper subscriptions and I read long articles. I have magazine subscriptions. On my recent vacation, I think I knocked out 6 books. So it's ways of just learning about and seeing the world, experiencing the world and learning about it from all different types of perspective. And that really, really just motivates me. It makes me, I'm always thinking of ideas of thinking like, oh, well, that could be interesting. Could that be a documentary? Oh, maybe that could be something or that. It's a need to just explore. And I've never had that kind of desire to stop exploring. And there's never been a point where I'm like, oh, I'm done. Okay, that's it. And I'm willing to kind of try most things and fail miserably. I tried taking a mosaic class. And remember, I graduated from art school. So you think I would be good at a mosaic class. Oh no, I was horrible. It was great. And the teacher was like, "Oh, that looks good." I'm like, "No, it doesn't." But it's fine because guess what? I make money in another art form. So I'm okay. I'm not, my identity is not defined by my ability to do a mosaic. So I think just I like trying things. I think I'm incredibly curious and I think I like being curious. I think everybody should be curious. I think when you're not curious, you're just blocking yourself off from kind of some of the great things in the world.
Oh god, yeah. And you know, there's something as well I gotta say, again, thinking about that art perspective. When you find a niche that you operate well in and you seem to do very well in, I feel like sometimes there is that pressure to continue to do well, to continue to perform, and like it's the sort of catch-22 of operating in a capitalist society, right? Like at some point, like a job is a job is a job, and you have to do the thing. There is something so wonderfully healing about doing art that is bad, but for no other reason than you just enjoy doing it. And it's so strangely healing to be like, ah, look at my child, this piece of utter garbage. I'm so happy.
Yeah, I think also that, when you're in show development, when I everybody, you fail all the time. You fail. If you get 1 or 2 things greenlit, you're a huge success. You're absolute success. And that's part of, I think, one of the reasons I love baseball so much. It's one of the few sports that, you bat 3 out of 10, you're an all-star. You're failing more than you're succeeding. And so failing, learning how to fail and enjoying the failure sometimes and doing something that you're just really bad at, it helps. It makes, to me, you let it roll off your back, you make it funny, you make whatever happens. And then when the success happens, it feels all the better. It just feels great.
Now, you had just mentioned baseball. So, as a passionate Washington Nationals fan, how is following that team from its Expo origins to players like Zimmerman, Strasburg, Soto, and Harper? Like, how has that shaped your sense of like home joy, or even identity?
Uh, it can be crushing. Crushing. No, so I'm one of the few people you meet. I was born in Washington, D.C., and I've lived the majority of my life in the Washington, D.C. area. And it's a town because of the government, it's a very transient town, but more and more people are from here and live most of their lives here. So I didn't grow up with a baseball team. We didn't get the baseball team until 2005. And so when my best friend, Katie, we decided that when we got a team, we were going to get season tickets. So I've had season tickets from the very beginning, and we were awful. We were awful. I mean, just tragically horrible. I mean, it was bad. And then we started getting better. And then the prospect of winning was like, oh my God, we could win. We could be good. And then we had 6 years of being so close. And and I think that that's a good life lesson. I think it's a good like lesson to learn of like you're going to be close and how hard things can be even at the top level. And then when we finally won the World Series, it was a year that nobody expected it. And so we were all along for the ride. It was just, we had nothing to lose. And so we won. And it was glorious. It was absolutely glorious. And I think it taught me, I'm not a fair weather fan. I'm a committed fan, but I also kind of take the long view. I take the long view of it takes time to rebuild. You're going to lose players. Some people are going to come out and be great, and some people are going to be flops. And it's not easy to win a World Series. Ask, any sad Yankees or Indians fan, and so I take the pleasure where I can get the pleasure and where we can enjoy it. And even more so, the friends that I've made, if you guys have read or seen Fever Pitch by Nick Hornsby, the section I sit in at the ballpark, we've all become dear friends. And so now it's even more of not just the baseball game, but it's being every summer with these dear friends I've made over the past 20 seasons.
That's incredible. And kind of tying it in, this conversation we're having around, the expansiveness of the work that you do and the industry and the experiences of being plus size, there is such this sense of isolation that can exist because everyone thinks of this idea of being siloed, doing your work, living your life, and that is it. When in actual fact, what it means to have community, a support network, to have success in your career, all comes down to opening yourself up to these opportunities in the moment, in a place, having a conversation and seeing what evolves from there. And so even that simple story of how you become friends with all these people is a real metaphor to everything I think we've been talking about today. That sense of open yourself up and be willing to receive the potential of the great things that can come. And just simply by bringing your full self to a situation, you could have wonderful, wonderful things. I think that's just...
I agree with you 1000%. I think that so frequently heavy people we are told to make ourselves small. We are told that we're the first person to move out of the way on a sidewalk because we don't want to feel like we're taking up too much space. And
Yep.
we do everything to make us appear to be small or be quieter because we don't want to be considered being that loud, heavy person. We don't want to be considered overly aggressive, which I know that's happened to me where I've been accused of yelling at people. And I'm like, I'm not yelling. I'm just, because I'm bigger, it seems like that, but I'm not yelling. And we're told to all the time to just be, as said, put ourselves in a corner or hide in the dark. And it's like, and we're missing so much, so much. And when we go out and we make those connections and we experience and see things and realize, we are absolutely okay who we are. And the people who are holding it against us, the people who are sneering, or the people who think we're deaf and making comments, they're the problem. They're the issue. And no, I'm going to live my life and not let them hold me back.
Hannah Gansby says this in Nanette. When someone tells me to stop being so sensitive, I think I'm a nose being lectured by a fart. I'm not the problem here.
Yeah. Yeah, she's absolutely right. She's absolutely right. It's, as I said, you got to remind yourself. It's like, wait a minute, what do you want from me? And it's like, all you want from me is you want permission and to be cruel. And no, I'm not going to give you that permission. Absolutely not.
I love that. And to that point, you are this plus size Emmy-winning professional and body image certified coach. I want to ask here, what advice do you have for our listeners about pursuing creative endeavors, building a professional life without letting those things, that negative body image and those societal expectations, what advice do you have to people about not letting those things hold them back?
Pursue what makes you happy. And in doing that, also pursue and be with people who make you your best self. And in that, those standards that people hold you to, those standards that people say you have to wear this outfit, you have to wear these uniforms, if that is not going to make you your best confident self, don't do it. Be your best confident self. And I think the biggest piece of advice I try to give people is stop saying I'm sorry for things that you have no reason to be sorry for. You should not be sorry for existing. You should not be sorry for being in the body that you were given. You should be proud and you should embrace it and be all that you are. And just that energy you take to apologize all the time of taking up too much space, being too crowded, not wearing the right things. If you took all that energy to say I'm sorry about all those things and put it towards being positive and being confident, it's amazing the change that you can have in your life.
Now, we ask everybody this question, and this is a bit of a fun one. What food gives you life, and what food brings you peace?
Oh, fried chicken and fried chicken.
I love it.
I mean,
Yes.
fried chicken. Yeah, that's
Upset.
easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always feel, yeah, I mean, I mean, I would probably put fried chicken and peanut butter in the same thing. I feel so bad for people with peanut allergies because they just don't know what they're missing because peanut butter is perfect. But no, those two things. Yeah. I mean, it's just really, really good fried chicken. Man, that is the best. Yeah.
You've now got in my head fried chicken and peanut butter. I go karage chicken and a satay sauce, and I'm just like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, and and finding those things that what's the food that connects you with family and connects you with memories and connects you with those things. Those are the other things. I think that people miss the opportunities of finding food that brings you an emotional connection to your loved ones.
That's beautiful. Before we begin to close out, I just want to ask, we've talked around so much today, is there anything we haven't gotten to that you'd like us to ask about or anything you'd like to circle back to before we begin to wrap things up?
No, I mean, we've talked about my boobs. We've talked about we've talked about queer docs. I mean, no, I think we've hit all the things. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was in the brief. You said specifically, you pinned me to the wall, you said you have to talk about my boobs and you have to talk about queer. And I said, absolutely, Miss Malone-deBenedictis, you just lead the way. And I'm so glad we could do that for you.
This is great producing, everybody. This is when they listen and they provide. This is what everybody should learn from. Yes.
Oh my goodness. Shannon, I just want to ask, what is coming up next for you? What are you working on at the moment? What's coming up out of Paddling Creative? Tell us about all the things.
Oh, sure. So I'm in the middle of crowdfunding right now for an independent documentary short called Farmville, Fire in a Tar Paper Shack. It's about a civil rights hero, 1951 teenager who led a student walkout and became part of Brown versus Board of Education. I am doing some lectures for the next 2 months in and around Chicago, the Caribbean, and then looking at my wall, like, where else am I going? I'm going so many different places. And then my series, Saving Yellowstone, Season 1 premiered back in November, so you can find that on HBO Max. And Season 2, hopefully, will be premiering again in a few months.
That is phenomenal. Shannon, I can't say thank you enough for today. I said at the beginning, we were so excited to get to speak to someone of your caliber, and I just feel like today has been just a warm slice of chocolate cake. This has been nothing but joy and loveliness. Thank you so very much for everything you have shared with us today. Where can our listeners find you and Paddling Creative and all of your work online?
Sure. My website is padlincreative, Padlin creative.com. You can drop me a message there, drop me an email through there. You can also find essays I've written, links to television shows I've produced, as well as links to the classes I teach on Udemy.
Fabulous. Listen, y'all, that is it for another week here on Thicc Radio. Now, please remember to like and subscribe, rate us 5 stars, and y'all, leave us a good review. If you like this episode, the podcast, our incredible guest, or just us in general, please share it with your friends and encourage them to tune in. You can find me on Instagram and BlueSky at stannnum.
And you can find me on Instagram at ThiccyMouse and Grommr at Orpheus. You can also find us on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Thicc Radio, or visit our website at podpage.com/Thicc Radio. If you'd like to become a financial supporter of the show, you can donate through our PayPal, and you can always email us at thiccradio@gmail.com. So until next time, bye, Fats.
Bye, Fats.
Bye, Fats.
Let's talk about it.
Thicc Radio is a Spotify podcast
Artwork, media design, editing, and production by James Heinzen.
with original theme music by CYMK.